If you need any props, bring them near you now. Cushions, pillows. I know that not everybody has a yoga block or a bolster or things like that, but anything that you have at home can work. So if you have like thick books or cushions, pillows, you can lay them around you. And we're going to start taking a wide-legged child pose. So very nice, Olga. I see you grabbing those cushions. We'll take a wide-legged child pose. So you may want to bring your knees about mat width apart and bring the toes to touch behind your body. The toes will be touching. Knees are rather wide, mat width apart or more if that feels comfortable to you. And we're gonna sit all the way down on the heels. If we need to add a cushion or a blanket between the hips and the heels, we can do that. And fold forward all the way into a child pose, wide leg child pose. Maybe lower the forehead onto the mat. You can also stack your hands and rest the forehead on the hands, whichever feels best for you. And we start to focus on the breath here. Gently allowing the body to begin to open up, focusing on the sensation in the hips. And take deep belly breaths, just like we always do at the beginning of every class when we lay in Shavasana. Taking a moment to observe and connect with the breath. Finding softness. And starting to make space. Distance yourself from any thoughts and anything that you were doing right before this class. And I'm gonna have to apologize. My children are screaming upstairs. So if you can hear that, I'm sorry. Allow the body to relax in the pose. So maybe check with the legs, check with the back, with the chest, check with the shoulders to make sure that we are not holding tension and are allowing the body to open up on its own terms. You may notice that after a little bit in the pose, you may feel like the sensation is not intense enough anymore. The body may feel more open. You can make any necessary adjustments, maybe if needed, lowering the chest onto the mat and the chin, only if that feels comfortable. If you feel like you have to push and pull to get there, then stay where you were before. And relax the arms. Let's remind ourselves to follow the breath whenever the mind wanders, whenever we get caught in that mental conversation, without judgment, without getting angry at ourselves. Bring attention back onto the breath. And maybe tell yourself, this is my breath in. This is my breath out. Pressing on your hands. Begin to lift your head and your chest off the mat and walk the hands towards yourself. Release the legs, mindfully step back and take a plank pose. Pushing down on the mat through the hands, lifting through the core. Let's stay here for just a couple of breaths. Keep the collarbone wide. And let's drop the knees to the mat. And then lay all the way down on your belly. Make a pillow with the hands, toes touch, and heels fall open to the sides. Let's take a moment here. We'll open our hearts next in Sphinx pose. So bring the legs together, or if keeping the legs together bothers your lower back, feel free to separate the feet hip width apart. So play a little bit with what feels good for your body. And we will come onto our forearms. Make sure your elbows are right underneath your shoulders to start with. The fingers are spread wide apart for support. And maybe gently pull forward through the heart. And drop the shoulder blades towards your waist, behind your back. Now you may be tensing the body a little bit. Check with the glutes and relax them. Check with the legs. Relax. Draw the shoulders away from the ears. Drop the back of your heart towards the mat. And you may keep your chin either parallel to the floor, or if that bothers your neck, you can look down at the mat in front of you. We'll stay here for about 3 to 5 minutes. Make sure that you can breathe comfortably. And if you become tired at any point, you can release the pose. Please feel free to release the pose anytime. Or you can always cup your hands and support your chin and kind of stay here as if you were reading a book. I'm sure you've taken this position before in your life. So this should be enough. We retreat back inside, withdrawing the senses, focusing on the breath. Feel free to scan your body and explore any sensations that arise. And maybe ask yourself, what am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? And with any discomfort that you may identify, you may tell yourself that this too shall pass. tensions build up in the upper back, in the shoulders. Continue checking back with these areas and remind yourself to soften. Very gently, we will release the pose. Be mindful of your spine as you lower the chest back onto the mat. Make a pillow with the hands and rest your forehead or your cheek on the hands. Toes touch, heels fall open to the sides. And let's take a moment here. Continue paying attention to the lower back and how the sensation changes, how the body releases. Bring the hands next to your chest, bend the knees, and we will take all fours first in preparation for sleeping swan, which you may also know as pigeon. So sometimes in Yin Yoga we do the same poses as Hatha Yoga, but we just change the names for whatever reason, and that helps change the awareness of the way in which we approach the poses. We will bring the right knee next to the right hand and gently open that right shin to the side. If you usually try to get a deeper stretch and try to get your shin parallel to the front edge of your mat, this may be too much in the context of Yin Yoga. So feel free to bring the foot back in ever so slightly and walk the left leg back. See if we can sit all the way down. If we cannot sit all the way down on the mat, here is where your blocks or your cushions come in right underneath the right hip, so that the pelvis stays neutral in one place, facing the front of the mat. So feel free to add cushions and support. Inhale here, and as we exhale, we will fold forward. And you can bring your forearms on the mat. If you want to fold all the way, you can bring your forehead on the mat. And if you have cushions and support and you want to use them, you can also lay them in front of you and use them for support. It's completely up to you to find your point of resistance. Once you are in your pigeon, make sure that you can breathe comfortably. Your breath will always tell you when you've gone too far. And relax the back leg. Check with the shoulders, relax the shoulders. Maybe even check with your jaw and your face. Are you clenching your jaw? And if that is the case, relax your whole face. Maybe take a smile. is my breath in, and this is my breath out, as we allow the body to sink freely into the mat, and we seek a state of surrender and acceptance of where we are today. We don't need to go deeper, and if we usually go deeper in the pose, that's not important. We don't need to get there. We don't need to do anything. We find presence where we are right now. Maybe we can feel the pose in a different way than we usually do. And the longer we stay here, the more subtle adjustments and opening we can find in the body. If your mind has started going places, bring it back onto the breath. You may identify patterns within the mind of when and how you kind of start checking out of poses. Is it discomfort, physical discomfort? Is it something similar to boredom? Do we feel the need to be entertained? The more we observe, the more we begin to understand our very nature. And the more we can begin to explore the concept of being content in the moment with what we are and what we have, and understand that it is not going to last forever. Let's gently press on the hands and bring ourselves back up. Take your time and then bring both hands in front of you on the mat. Curl the left toes and we'll step back into downward dog. Be gentle, mindful of that right leg that we were just sitting on. Take your time, take your downward facing dog and maybe bicycle the legs. Swing the hips from side to side. Find movement again. And let's take the other side. Bring the left knee near the left hand and step the right leg back to sit on the mat. If you need the props, maybe add a prop underneath the left hip. Take a deep breath here and exhale, fold forward. Find your resistance and stay there. This is my breath in. This is my breath out. And if we started to identify any patterns in the mind when we were doing the other side of the pose, let's see if we can stay aware of them on this side. Let's see if we can maintain our presence as we continue to soften the body, soften that back leg, your shoulders. Coming out of the pose, we'll begin to walk the hands towards ourselves. Again, take your time, bring the hands on the mat in front of you, curl the right toes, and let's take another downward facing dog. Once again, bringing that left leg back, maybe bicycle the legs, sway the hips. And do any movement that feels good and that helps you release the pose that we just took. Look at your hands. Take a step forward. Separate the feet about mat width apart. We will take Malasana, the squat. Welcome, squatting, sitting between those feet. Now make sure that your heels are both on the mat, so you can play with the distance between the feet. If the heels are not on the mat, separate the legs a little longer, or maybe add a rolled blanket underneath the heels. Sitting down, hands in prayer to the chest, and the elbows gently push the knees to open. Straighten the spine. See if you can open your heart and relax the shoulders away from the ears. Close your eyes and find your balance here. letting your body weight ground down between your feet. Feeling your connection to the earth through the soles of the feet, through gravity. Feel the energy pulling you down, and also find your own energy pulling up through the crown of the head, as if you were suspended in between these two pulling forces. This is my breath in. This is my breath out. Relax the shoulders. And as much as we can, relax the legs. Making just enough effort to stay in place without excessive force. Check with your chest, open your heart. And we will gently release the pose, release the hands first on the mat, and come to stand on your knees. We will take a camel pose, Ustrasana, and this is probably one of the hardest back bends that we do in Yin Yoga. We will not hold it for 3 or 5 minutes as it's a very intense pose. It will more likely be something between 30 seconds to a minute. So for Ustrasana, we've done it, I think, last week. We did this back bend in class. You can keep your hands on your lower back, on your hips, and just focus on lifting through the rib cage here. You do not have to take the full pose with the hands on your heels. If you are taking the full pose with the hands on the heels, be sure to continue to push the hips forward and to lift through the heart. So let's take it together. Take the variation that you prefer, hands on hips or lower back, or hands on prayer, or the full pose. And let's gently begin to elongate the spine, lifting through the rib cage, front side of the body long. Find your camel and breathing it. Deep breaths. And slowly, with control, we will come up. Take your time. Slowly sit all the way down on the heels. We will take a child pose. Maybe bring the knees together. Rest your belly on the thighs. Mindful movements. We're releasing the spine. And you can extend the arms alongside your body. Hands next to your feet. Drop the forehead on the mat. If your hips are floating above your heels, you can add a cushion between hips and heels. You can also add a prop underneath your forehead if it's not touching the mat. Here, send your breath to your lower back as if with every inhale we were breathing directly into that spot. And slowly rolling up from your child pose. We will come to lay down in a reclined butterfly pose. So if you have props, you can build yourself a little thing where you have kind of like a ramp to lay on, if it makes sense. Or you can also lay a cushion on the floor, whatever works for you, or no props at all. This is something that you can also do with no props. And we're gonna sit with the soles of the feet together in front of us, butterfly. And we're going to recline that butterfly. So we will come to lay down on the mat. Either on the mat or your cushion or your little building here behind you. Whatever feels good for you. Soles of the feet are together. And we lay back. So if you're using a cushion or a ramp behind you, that would help open the heart a little bit more as opposed to laying on the mat. But both ways, whether you're laying on the mat or on a cushion, you will still be opening the hips. So it's not like if you're not using props, you're not doing anything. That is not the case. It's just a different approach. So either focusing more on the hips or adding a gentle heart opener on top of the hip opener. Coming back to the breath. Relax the knees, check with the hips. Check to see if you're holding tension in your legs and kind of trying to keep your knees in place and prevent them from opening. And if that is the case, relax and let them go. using a cushion, maybe come on your forearms and remove that prop to the side. If you're not using a cushion, stay where you are. And after you've removed your prop, come to lay again on your back. Extend the arms shoulder height to the sides. And gently bring the knees up to meet. Your feet will be on the mat. Let's leave the feet off the mat and wrap the right leg around the left. You can hook the right foot around the left calf if that works for you. Otherwise, just cross the legs. Leave the knees a little more towards the chest and then drop them gently to the left side of the body. If they don't go down all the way, if the right knee does not touch the floor, it's okay. It can float a little bit, and if that is uncomfortable, you can place a cushion underneath. And if it doesn't bother your neck, look at your right hand. Otherwise, look up at the ceiling. Close your eyes and breathe. Bringing the knees back up to center, unwrap the legs, and wrap the left leg around the right.
I'm sorry about before, if you could hear me.
Yes, I could hear you, and we're still doing class. Okay, it's okay.
I will watch.
Let's drop the knees to the right side of the body. Again, if the left knee does not touch the mat, it's okay. Keep both shoulders on the mat. And look over to your left hand unless it bothers your neck.
Yesterday you didn't clean my feet and now I'm missing my back. I don't know feet yet. What? No.
Let's lift the knees up again to center and wrap the legs and extend them into your final Shavasana.
After the yoga class, can you give me a job?
Yes.
Yes.
If you need any extra stretch anywhere in your body, feel free to give yourself that extra stretch. Otherwise, find your Shavasana. Make sure the legs are relaxed. Maybe lift the chest of the mat, keeping the arms on the floor. Lift the chest. Draw the shoulders down behind your back, shoulder blades towards the spine, and then drop the chest again onto the mat so that your heart is open as you continue to lay in Shavasana. Sometimes as we lay in Shavasana, the chest kind of closes and the shoulders hunch or round a little bit. So it's always good to lift the chest and take a moment to open the heart. And then continue to focus on the breath. Continue to relax. continue to stay present. It's very easy to kind of check out as we go into Shavasana. So stay here, stay with your body, stay with your breath. Pay attention to the body. Pay attention to your inner energy. And you may find lingering sensations in the areas of the body that we have been targeting. Slowly begin to bring awareness back inside your body. Wiggle your fingers and toes. Bring the legs together. Raise your arms above your head. Interlace your fingers and give yourself a nice stretch. Exhale, release. Bend the knees. Roll to the right side on your mat. And whenever you're ready, come meet me in a seated position. Legs are crossed, spine straight, hands on your knees or Chin Mudra. Let's breathe here for a moment. We'll chant Om 3 times. Inhale. Slowly open your eyes. thank you for practicing with me. I hope that you guys had a nice time, that you were able to relax despite this, and that you will have a good evening and a nice weekend.
If you enjoyed this class, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so we can continue practicing together. Thank you.
I like playing like some soothing music when we're doing yoga, but I'm using my phone and I don't have anything to play music. So if you want to like mute yourself and like play some nice music on your phone while we're doing this, it's always a good idea. Like something like I don't know, some sleep playlist on Spotify or something like that. Those are really nice and they help you really get in the zone.